Two people riding a scooter on the sidewalk. Okay, so today, here's the plan. I'm gonna have to try to make this a little bit faster paced because the plan today is I'm going to my local music shop, and this is unapproved and unannounced, but my plan today is I really want to play with the new Push 2. Had Push originally, if you haven't already heard, and I liked the workflow, but it didn't perfectly fit with what I did, and it kind of just ended up being like a tool to distract me from actually getting stuff done. Push 2 seems completely redesigned. So I'm sure this is obvious to those of you who have done a lot of research about Push and Push 2 and like are really in it. When Push 2 came out, I had just sold my Push when Push 2 came out, and I was like, it just wasn't that. And so I didn't really I was so unexcited about my Push because I was getting rid of it, which, is partly because I wanted to be able to be okay with getting rid of it, but that I just completely ignored the release of Push 2, and I had a chance to look at it at Guitar Center the other day, and it's completely different. And like I said, I'm sure those of you who are up on stuff know this, but I didn't. So anyway, I'm excited to play with it today, and I'm going to try and do a little bit of recording. I don't know how good the quality is going to be because I'm going to just be recording from, I think, the internal microphone in my computer, and we'll see. So I will be capturing computer audio and doing a screen capture, and then there might be some of my face in there, but we'll see. This is going to be an interesting experiment, and yeah, join me on the ride. Woo! So, Push 2. I don't know how I'm going to cut this video together, but there might be some interspersed things where you might have watched a little bit of me using it. Big takeaway, spoiler alert, I want one. I mean, I think I already knew that, but first of all, I want to jump back, and the reason why the Push 1 didn't work, because I've kind of talked about it, that it hasn't worked in my workflow, but not necessarily how. So the reason why the Push 1 didn't work in my workflow, first of all, the pads were not excellent. They were okay. The pads on the Push 1 were good. But when the Launchpad Pro came out, I was blown away by how incredible those pads were, how expressive, just how good they were. Push 2 has taken it to that level, and they also have kind of a really powerful way to tweak the responsive velocity of the pads, which is cool. There's like 3 different parameters to tweak velocity, and oh god, it sounds good. Even just the default setting, really, really good. I mean, super quiet notes end up being super quiet notes. Super loud stuff ends up being super loud. The cool part was, like, I was playing instruments and playing really expressively, and I didn't even find the extent of the dynamic range. So it's really cool. I don't think I've experienced that in a long time with an instrument where I don't quite hit the loudest louds or the quietest quiets with the instrument I'm playing with. And so huge props on the pads on that on the Push 2. They're just incredible. They're just fantastic. So outside the pads rather, the workflow. First of all, screens, love them. Love the screens. Man, are they just fantastic. I really wonder where they're getting the power for the GPU on the screens. It seems pretty quick, but my computer seems to be chugging a little harder, so I wonder if the push is pulling from the GPU on my machine to do the screens on the push, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it just seemed a little sluggish because I was also screen recording at the time. But excellent improvements to the workflow. Little things, and it's been so long since I've used a push, which is just like 2 or 3 months, that I don't necessarily remember every single button where it would be and where it was. And when I was using it, I was able to get around it really quickly. But on this, things just seemed to be in a slightly more intuitive place. Like the track stops are where they should be. Track mutes and solos are where they should be. Delete buttons and recordings and being able to do everything was where it should be, and it was just fantastic. So really good improvements. The screen, like I said, is fantastic. All the controls are fantastic. The fact that the knobs are touch sensitive and they quickly pop up with what, the tempo and everything else, it's just really good. Really impressed with that. I will say, the thing that I thought was coolest is while I was jamming, there was a moment where I started to sing and where I started to want to start to loop. And I really was starting to get disappointed that I wasn't able to figure out how to loop very quickly on the push. And so I don't know if you'll see that. I don't know if I'll post my whole improv on push, but I think I'll just kind of cut in and out of different parts and maybe, fade in of highlights. coolest part about Push for me is that the Push 2 for me is that it gets closer to being the computer-based instrument. And I think that because of the looping thing and the new live link, and the fact that I use iOS Loopy to do my vocal looping, the Push is really going to be a great way to get a live setup. Like, I'm super impressed. Now I'm just trying to think of if I would want to, and I think this is something to play with. This isn't a decision to make now, but now I'm just starting to think like, okay, so my live looping setup would look somewhat like this. You would have, and maybe I'll graphic this out and draw it out on the screen. I would have my voice going through a Line 6M13, preferably a JHV3 mod. That's cool. Maybe a guitar. I'm kind of rethinking the guitar. Maybe not a guitar. But I really like the guitar, so maybe that mixing together into, I don't know. Anyway, vocal effects, possibly guitar effects, and keyboard audio mixed to looper on loopy on my iPhone. Controlled via foot pedal. Live link to Ableton controlled with the Push. Now the decision to make is possibly having my keyboard MIDI controlling into Ableton to control devices, or if I just use the Push as the Push, period, as the only computer instrument there, drum sequencer, other instruments, whatever, and then I use all of the instruments from my keyboard itself. Although it is kind of cool to be able to sequence stuff and sidechain it. That is really cool to be able to sidechain though. I might figure this out, because then in the Ableton set, what you could have is you could have so your drums would be one track, and I could have selectors and then maybe like an 808 kit and like an acoustic kit, right? That seems to be like a good 3-drum kit combo. So I've got my selector kit, I've got my acoustic kit, and I've got my 808 kit, whatever. Then I've got my instruments, so that could be synth or whatever, and I could browse and just kind of improv and do whatever with the Push. Maybe that would be fine. Maybe that's not fast enough for live, but maybe it is. I mean, it's not necessarily like my improvs are going to need to be like a 3-minute song, because it's not like I'm trying to be Beardy Man with this. This is for something totally different. This is a way for me to improv and jam with other musicians via link. And then have that as well as possibly my keyboard input, possibly even my input from Loopy sidechain. That would be really cool, actually. That would be really, really cool. Oh, really, really cool. Anyway, that was so much fun. I had a ton of fun, so thanks to the guys at that undisclosed music store for letting me play with that, and yeah, hopefully I'll get one soon. Kind of expensive at $7.99, but totally worth it. Totally worth it. Anyway, thanks guys. Have a great day. And Push is officially on my wish list, as well as the JHV3 modded M13. Both for the sake of live jamming though, so that's gonna be coming out of a fun expenses category rather than a work-related / music production related thing, because I don't think that's going to necessarily help with production very much. I mean, it might. Who knows? Bye.